I like to ask, but I guess the obvious place to start is if you could tell us a little bit about the kind of origins of this. Where did this character first come from?
I've always been particularly drawn to these darker sorts of movies that explore these sorts of characters, and I think that I was working with Josh Mond, who's somewhere in the back there, on his movie James White, and in working together we talked a lot about our moms, and this is going to sound really weird, but a lot of the things in this movie, minus the violent stuff, I did with my mom. Like the eye dissection, or the cow dissection in the beginning, my mom is an eye doctor. All the St. Francis stuff, that's kind of my mom. And it started off as, let's take the sort of odd parts of my childhood and take them out of context, and then put the character in a situation where she doesn't have her mother as she grows older to understand why she was taught all those things, and as a result, she takes a different turn than her mother had necessarily intended for her without realizing it. And it was, half love letter to the horror films that I love, but then also just getting a chance to really explore this lonely girl who's dealing with loss and doesn't really understand how to cope with it, and then get to play with all my genre tricks to make it more fun. But yeah, that was kind of the heart of it all.
And she's such a fascinating character. I mean, she's a villain as much as she's a victim. She's a kind of very human monster. Was it important for you to get this kind of balance, and is it difficult to achieve so that the audience kind of in some way stay on her side?
Yeah, and I think that what was important for me in this is and this is not to justify anything, but a lot of times when someone kills someone or does something particularly violent, commits a crime, their life is reduced to like a news item, like so-and-so did this. But there's all those quiet moments between these crazy, more violent moments in a person's life in real life. Like for real murderers and serial killers, they still have to go and make their bed and wake up every morning and eat breakfast. And to me, when you know what someone is capable of, seeing them do the kind of banal everyday life becomes just as scary. But it also gives you a deeper insight into why she is the way she is, because I'm asking you to sit with her for a little over an hour and be with it, and if you were totally disgusted by her, we'd have a lot more walkouts way earlier on. But I think that what was fun and challenging about the film is I'm asking the audience to sympathize with someone who they would never normally sympathize with, and asking them to kind of put themselves into the shoes of someone that they'd never really want to be in the shoes of.
Just want to talk about the kind of look of the film for a bit. I mean, it's so beautiful, it's so striking, and I'm sure this is something you get asked all the time, but black and white, yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision to shoot that way?
Yeah, I think it's partially, like I said, the horror films that I was sort of raised on, everything from Night of the Hunter, Straight Jacket, all the Betty Davis and Joan Crawford movies of the 60s and 50s. I wanted it to fit in with that sort of lexicon of movies, but also tonally, it felt like a closer depiction of Francisca's world to then this bright, colorful, rural landscape. It's not her. Her life isn't this like pastoral painting, it's this sort of grim, bleak, black and white photograph, like a crime scene photo. And to kind of strip all the color and joy out of her life and make it tonally and visually kind of feel like what her reality feels like in her head.
Are there any questions that anyone would like to ask? Yeah, there's a question here at the front. Just the mic is just coming over, so.
To ask, what are the horror movies that you love?
It's like Night of the Hunter, Straight Jacket, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Psycho, like that's my black and white sort of 50s, 60s American Southern Gothic, but then there's also a lot of Japanese horror influence. Takashi Miike is a huge influence on me, and Audition was a movie that I saw that really like pushed what I thought was acceptable in a movie, but Audition is a movie that people remember as being super, super violent, but you don't really ever see anything on the screen, and it's kind of, the moments of violence are contained, and that's the case in a lot of the Japanese horror films, where it's like you remember them being so twisted and so gory and violent, and then when you actually think about it, it's all off screen, and there was one scene of violence, and I thought that it was a very beautifully tactful way of going about doing a more gruesome story.
Yeah, there's a question just on the side.
Hiya. That really reminded me of less so Japanese horror, but more like French horror.
Yeah, like Martyrs and Interior Inside, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that might be an influence. My question would be, it jumped out at me that it was an absolute flip reverse of the standard sort of torture porn narrative. Was that intentional, or was it something?
A flip on what sort of narrative?
Torture porn narrative.
Torture
like
porn.
Hostel,
yeah.
Tying girls up in a basement. It's like done by a woman instead of a man, and her sexuality is ambiguous, so that was like really refreshing. Was that intentional, or was that something that came after you'd thought of the story?
I don't know that it was intentional, but it was definitely part of, what I do think is, particularly in America, like when you put a girl in a horror movie, she's usually like the hot girl with her clothes off running around as the victim, and I wanted to have a female killer and like have a villain. It's like the Charlize Theron movie Monster is the only movie that I could think of in Audition that are like these female serial killers, and I wanted to do something different, and I think that her femininity did something different to the chaining someone in a basement means something much more in this than it does in a movie like Saw or Hostel. In Eyes, it's a lonely girl who's reacting to like a sick puppy and is like, oh, come here and like stay with me. And then when that puppy goes viral or feral because like they don't want to be chained up, she's like, why are you being mean to me? What's wrong? And she's a little girl who doesn't understand what's going on. And I think that, I played with this sort of the vague trope of, chaining people up, but I think doing it differently and kind of flipping it on its head, and she finds a little more disturbing ways of making that chaining up far more painful.
Can I just ask you, just as an extension of that, about Kiki, your lead actress? She's so extraordinary, and she brings such a kind of vulnerability, but at the same time, such a kind of cold harshness as well. Can you talk a little bit about her and working with her and how you kind of developed that character? Yeah,
I had worked with Kika on a music video before I made the movie, and there was something otherworldly about her that was striking to me, and what you see in the movie, aside from like the darkness, the way she moves, her mannerisms, the way she holds herself, that's all her. And there was something odd and interesting and sort of alien about it that she was open to talking about. And throughout me writing the script, I had a person who I could sit there and talk to and be like, would Francisca do this? Would Francisca do this? And she came to me with the Amalia Rodriguez music and was like, this is what my mom listens to all the time. And so it was, I had a collaborator in her, but there was also something that was just naturally there about her that was unescapable, and why we want, we tried to make the best use of that on the screen as we could.
Are there any other questions? We've got time for a couple more. Yeah, there's a question just in the a few rows back in the middle.
Thank you for the film. And I was just wondering how you worked with the child actress. Has she seen the film?
Yes, she came to the premiere at Sundance and walked out of the theater the moment that she realized the dad died, because she did not read the script. But I do got, she was amazing. And something that was important for me with this was, you hear stories about movies like The Shining where they had the kid like in another room and then they bring him in for his close-up and be like, just look that way and look scared. And I wanted to find a young actress who I could, you know, obviously a 9-year-old isn't going to be able to like fully explore these themes, but to have someone who I didn't have to shelter and I didn't have to like kind of skirt around things. And I mean, this girl Olivia, we put that cow head down on the table and she like had her hands in it without me asking her in like 2 seconds. And she had that natural curiosity that children have even about the kind of morbid, odd, gross stuff, and she didn't get grossed out by it. And oftentimes with kids, it's like more about the parents than it is the kid, and her parents were amazing and super supportive and like saw what we were doing and saw that we were being respectful to their child, and she loved being on set. She would like try to mess up shots to slow us down so that she could like stay on set longer. And then she came to the premiere, watched the first 20 minutes of it, and as soon as she was off screen, she was done.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, there's a question just towards the back.
Why all the different languages? I know we'll talk about this at dinner, but I thought I'd ask you.
I think that well, first of all, I wanted there to be an immigrant aspect to the family story of just sheerly superficially. She, when she speaks to other people, speaks differently and was raised with a different culture than the sort of world she's living in now and doesn't know that it's different than the world. And I think that for me, her family being foreign and her mother teaching her another language, it was just like another extra layer of the connection to her family, but also in connecting her more to her family, it also isolated her. And also Kika is from Portugal, and I kind of wanted to embrace, you know, if it had been an actress from another country, I might have chosen another language, but to me it was more important that it was from a culture. I'm Italian, and there's a very particular way that Italians handle Catholicism and religion, and I wanted to find another culture that had a similar sort of way of handling all that sort of stuff. But it also was just Kika spoke Portuguese, and it fit and was so perfect, and kind of embracing what was unique about her and using it for the character.
We've got time for just one last question. I think there was, one done at the front here.
Hi, amazing film. I was going to ask about the family. Even before the murder happens, the guy comes. While the murder is happening, the dad seems very nonchalant about the death. And even when they're just going about with the eye surgery with the cow and all that, it felt very Addams Family. And I want you to speak to that. And also, the group of people you work with, Josh Mund, Sean Durkin, and like you guys make really messed up films, and I love all of them, Simon Killer and all of that. So you already mentioned how you came up with the idea. So I was wondering, do you guys just sit around freaking each other out with ideas? And I want.
Sorry, we're just almost out of time. So if we can just
okay,
get those two
that's fine.
last, and then.
So I think that as far as the story of the parents and the family, I'm not going to tell you what the story is, but I'm definitely alluding to the fact that there's more to this family than meets the eye, even no pun intended. Before this guy even shows up, you know, from the age of the parents versus the age of their daughter to kind of what they're teaching her. I plant a lot of seeds, and throughout the movie there's kind of hints of what that story may be, but that's up to you to watch this again and figure it out for yourself. And then as far as the Borderline guys go, I mean, we sit around, we're not trying to disturb each other, but I think that what I connected with them on was doing these sort of more extreme stories, but grounding them and like not making, I came at them with a very, very genre-heavy piece, and they, at every turn, kind of made sure that it was as real and honest, no matter how stylized it got, that the emotion and the heart of it was something that was real and grounded. And Josh was always like, it's about loneliness. Always remember that this is a movie about loneliness. It's not a movie about murder. It's not a movie about... And that's, I think, the biggest thing that they've taught me is like finding the ways of using my life and people I know and the things that we think about that aren't this crazy, and using them within stories that are a little louder. And I don't know if you've seen Christine, which is Tony's movie, which is also here, but it's like a movie about a real person that has as much of Tony in it as it does Christine. And I think that all of their movies are like that, and hopefully this has, as twisted as it is, has a little bit of me in there too.
Just to let you know, there's a repeat screening of this tomorrow afternoon, so tweet about it, tell your friends, tell them to ditch work and come and see it, because there's still tickets left. Nicholas, thank you so much for being here tonight.